Hello everyone, welcome to my humble channel, where I try to convince you that you're wrong for liking movies that everyone loves. No, I'm totally kidding. That is unequivocally not the aim of this channel. But all jokes aside, jumping right into the topic of the day. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a good movie. Not only that, but I think it was better than the 1971 version.
What did you say?
I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is better than Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Say that one more time.
Okay, fine. Johnny Depp did it better.
You're really weird.
Now, this isn't necessarily an unpopular opinion versus between the Gene Wilder and Johnny Depp versions, but I will be discussing and comparing both movies.
Consider that a bonus.
The thing about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is that it was actually a very critically and commercially successful movie, but audiences hated it. And if you were to tell anyone who was born before the year 1993 that the 2005 version was better, you'd probably get slapped. And I've even heard people my age say that this movie was terrible. So the general consensus is Gene Wilder's movie was better. Alright guys, let's get one thing straight. Actually, no. There's a few things I want to state before going down this road. I don't hate the first Willy Wonka film, and I don't worship the second one. There's a few things about this movie that I don't like and kind of bothers me, but, you know, whatever. I also don't like it when people say the newer version is a remake of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's another adaptation of the Roald Dahl novel. I hate when people call it a remake. The book got adapted twice, and both movies took different approaches to telling the story. And it's true that there are similarities between the two, but, you know, that's just my thing. You could argue and debate that if you want in the comments below. That's not really why we're here. But for my last defense for that, nobody says the 2002 film Red Dragon by Brett Ratner was a remake of Michael Mann's Manhunter, since both movies were based on the same book. But that's it. That's it. So let's get to the real reason why we're all here. There's a lot of things that were better in this movie, and that goes without saying, like the special effects, the sets, the props, the costume, and obviously the budget. That's something we can all agree on. The Chocolate River really looked like actual chocolate, but this looks like sewage water, not delicious chocolate. The candy room was slightly underwhelming because the supposed candy looked like crappy Christmas decorations. I know the budget wasn't high and it was a different time, but still. It's been a long time since I've picked up the original book, but Tim Burton's version was much more faithful to its source material because the magical wonder and amazement was better captured. For example, the invention room. The machinery looked like real futuristic cutting-edge equipment that invented exotic candy, whereas the invention room in Willy Wonka kind of just looks like a filthy workshop. I'm sorry for the lack of structure in this video, but I want to jump to something that I hated about the first film. So, when I was a child, I hated musicals. I always felt like the song and dance numbers ruined and took away the mood of the movie. As I grew up, I came to appreciate musicals more. But as a kid, I hated the musical numbers in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And when I watched it again, I thought, maybe it won't bother me this time, but no, I was wrong. In fact, in order to properly enjoy this movie, I have to fast forward and skip the singing parts. I hate the transition from talking and acting to song and dance. It wasn't smooth or easy. It was just too bold. And some of them weren't even good songs. The only expectations to that are the Golden Ticket song, Pure Imagination, and obviously the Oompa Loompa songs. But I don't understand the musical logic of when the song and dance breaks out. Do the characters know when someone's singing? How do they know how to play along? I just don't get it. And it's even more confusing because when Willy Wonka started singing in the boat ride, everyone looked at him like a lunatic and didn't acknowledge the musical protocol of when a character starts singing. It's just so bizarre and inconsistent.
It's just weird.
Speaking of the Oompa Loompa songs, there's something that I should discuss about which movie did it better. And you know what? It's getting really annoying saying the 1971 or the 2005 movie. So for the rest of this review, if I'm referring to Gene Wilder's movie, I'll say Willy. And when I'm talking about Depp's movie, I'll say Charlie. Now that we're on the same page, let's continue. So the Oompa Loompas sing a song whenever a child on the tour gets eliminated from the group because of the unique individual vice that causes their downfall. In Willy, the Oompa Loompas sing a quick little ditty about the child's mistake, and that was it. Now, those songs are good, and it's actually really unfair how catchy they are, but I think Charlie did it better because, for one, those songs basically came from the book. The lyrics are very, very identical. And instead of a quick little verse or two about misbehaving, the entire song was a huge song and dance number trying to instill morals and correct the wrong of the child who acted out. There's more subject to it. It has more of a cautionary tale in an endearing sense that pounds the moral of the situation into the child, really hitting home to them why they shouldn't behave the way they did. Also, what bugs me about Willy is the only child who heard their Oompa Loompa song was Violet, so that kind of takes away the power and lesson and message of the song. In Charlie, the kids not only got to hear the song about them, but they had to endure the embarrassment of the others seeing him in their predicament, which should hit home for them and ensure they're never going to act out or indulge their unique vice anymore. The only exception was Veruca. She didn't hear her song, but her father did, and he's honestly more to blame about his daughter's behavior than she is, so the message is still the same. When it comes to the characters themselves, the majority of them were portrayed better in Charlie. In comparison to the book, I don't get the feeling of Willy Wonka by either portrayals, but I do think Depp did it better. He portrayed Wonka as an eccentric, goofy weirdo who's really funny and lovable, whereas Wilder's performance, he portrayed Wonka as kind of an internet troll in a sense, who's just a little bit off. And a really interesting detail is how in Charlie, Mr. Wonka, he had pale skin, and that makes sense considering that he's supposedly reclusive and doesn't go outside. The character of Charlie Bucket was a tough one to decide who was better because both movies actually did a wonderful job, but whenever I picture Charlie in my head, it's not from Willy, so I think Freddie Highmore was better by a tiny bit. Violet was easily more well done in Charlie because in Willy, she's merely a gum enthusiast with a mild temper, but this time around, she's a competitive gum zealot who she got what's coming to her, let's be honest. And I never liked the performance of Michael Bowler and Augustus Gloop, or as Augustus Gloop, because he doesn't really talk or do much. He's just there, and he seems slow. I mean, in Charlie, he lives up to the gluttonous slob who overeats. It's more fitting. And Veruca Salt was probably better in Willy, honestly. I don't have much more to say about that, but those are my thoughts on the children actors. And lastly, Mike TV. I think the Tim Burton movie messed up on Mike TV and took what the character was supposed to be and completely went the wrong way. It goes without saying that I like Mike better in Willy. I'll explain why. Mike TV is supposed to be a TV-obsessed kid who doesn't do anything besides watch violent movies and play with his toy guns to pretend to be his favorite TV show characters, and he's like that in Willy. His transition from book to screen was almost perfect, but in Charlie, he's the complete opposite. He's a mean, know-it-all, angry kid who seems like he bullies children at school, and his anger is his vice in the movie, not his undying love for television. You see him play a video game once in his intro scene, and that's it. So what's the point of Mike TV being Mike TV if he isn't really Mike TV? Yeah, I know. I've heard other critics call him a gamer, and that since the time period was different, the transition made a lot more sense, but I disagree. There's no mention of TV or video games again after that when it comes to Mike. So I just don't like this portrayal, and his downfall and elimination from the tour had nothing to do with his alleged love for TV or video games. The only reason he shrunk himself in the TV room was out of spite and anger because he thought he knew how to use Willy Wonka's teleporter better than he did. As opposed to the book and in Willy, Mike is seen wearing cowboy clothes, carrying his toy pistols, and always mentioning TV shows and movies nonstop. And he shrinks himself because he loves TV so much he wanted to be on it, and that makes sense. And as a side note, I always thought it was funny that he didn't even acknowledge the fact that he's shrunken down because he's so overjoyed about being on TV. That's just funny, and it stays true to his character.
It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
But since Mike was a little bastard in Charlie and how he assaulted the Oompa Loompas, his comeuppance was actually really satisfying. But his song doesn't really fit. Lastly, when it comes to characters, I think Grandpa Joe in both movies, it was a tie. The two films did a really good job with him, so I'm not really going to be able to choose. I like them both. Moving on, I think Charlie was actually a funny movie, and it had its moments. It was cringy at times, but it wasn't bad cringe that hurts your soul to watch. It was funny, awkward cringe. For example,
Who are you?
He's Willy Wonka.
Really?
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
overall, the look of Charlie was a lot better. It came off as, like, gothic and a little dark, but that's because it's Tim Burton's visual style, and it works for him. But the Count Dooku scenes really weren't that good, and I didn't think it really fit with the movie, but it was really funny when Willy Wonka would have Vietnam flashbacks.
Every minute I stay in this room, I get weaker. And every minute Charlie squats in the bush, he gets stronger.
Also, 2001: A Space Odyssey was seen in this film. That gives it a major boost. A couple other things I like was how Grandpa Joe used to work for Willy Wonka and knew a lot about him and his origins. That makes more sense and gives more of a reason why he would accompany Charlie to the factory, like, as opposed to his parents. And I think the mystery and the infamy of Willy Wonka was portrayed better in this film than in Willy. To close out, I'd like to say something that bothered me about Willy, and it's just, it took so long to introduce Wonka, and the tour itself was really short and kind of rushed, because it's like almost half of the movie was over by the time we enter the underwhelming factory. I think visually, Willy is a really ugly movie, and nothing about it gives off an aesthetically pleasing view. Overall, damn, the speech impediment is annoying.
You should open your mouth a little wider when you speak.
Yeah, sound advice. Anyway, overall, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, to me, is just more fun and watchable. Like I said, I don't hate Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, far from it, but I do prefer the Johnny Depp version. Truthfully, I think a lot of what they were going for in 1971 didn't really work because there were a lot of stale performances, bad visuals, and disapproval from the author of the book. In the end, the Tim Burton's view of the classic children's book was better. I'm pretty sure a lot of comments are going to come down roaring, saying how dumb I am, or how I don't make good enough cases for my points, or that I'm just totally crazy. Well...
Wrong. If you could have heard the man just 2 days ago, if you could have heard a man, God, you were going to call him crazy?
Anyway, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a good movie that got way too much unnecessary hate and a lot of harsh criticism it didn't deserve. Well, fellow movie buffs, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you stay safe. Leave a comment below if you think I missed something or you disagree with me. Be sure to drop a like and hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, check out my top 10 favorite war movie video or my Gettysburg movie review by hitting the links in the description below. And make sure to smack a like on those videos too. If you have any suggestions on what movie I should do next, comment that too. And I'll see you next time on the next Unpopular Opinion.